Well, I think I inadvertently misled you with the opening of that video. I filmed that several months ago, Studio Vlog 08. I did 07, 08, 09, all at the same time because I was trying to batch produce or batch shoot. They say it's a good idea for productivity. But then I decided that Studio Vlog 08 was going to be about Christmas cards. Now, I know that this is late January and this isn't the time to be thinking of Christmas cards, but I was getting ready to put all of my Christmas stuff away, and I thought, why am I doing this when I'm going to be pulling it back out probably way late in December? November, and probably late into December too, to start making my Christmas cards for 2022, which is where we are right now. So I thought, why don't I just get myself ahead of the game and make my cards now, and I can show you a great design and they'll be out of the way, and then I can do more fun stuff come this December when I'm still shooting and I'm still sharing videos, and I won't get bogged down with making my holiday cards. Makes sense, right? Yeah, I know, I'm a genius. I'm gonna be really proud of myself come December. I'm actually proud of myself now. So let me show you what I'm talking about. Also, I'm going to show you some of my Christmas cards from the past. I have two particular ones that I want to share with you. The one that I did in 2018 and the one I did in 2020. Now, the one I did in 2019, I have a video on that, making those cards and uploading them to a local print shop, like a drugstore print, like Walgreens or CVS. And I have a video on that, and I will share that with you in the description below. And oddly enough, I made those cards and I never sent them out. But that was the year my mom died, and I'm gonna just give myself a pass on that. At least I was making videos, right? Okay. We're not gonna talk about making videos or not making videos. Yeah. Now this particular design is really simple and sweet, but it has an elegance to it and a charm. I think it's got a lot of potential for different design ideas. And I'm going to share those with you because as I was making these, I kept coming up with ideas thinking, oh, I could do it this way, or I could do it this way, meaning adding watercolor or metallic inks. And I'm going to show you some of my samples and design ideas with this particular design that I'm sharing with you and some potential choices to do different things with it. So I think you'll be inspired. The thing about this design is it involves hand lettering, and it comes in the form of hand carved hand lettering. So we're going to be carving out the words for this particular card. And I will tell you that carving letters and phrases and word stamps, it can be a little tricky. It's tedious, and one little mistake can make a difference in how it turns out. So when I carved my first stamp, which I wasn't terribly crazy about, I didn't like this. I don't like how it turned out. I think it's just sort of, it's not very bold. I don't like how it works with the design here. I just don't like it at all, actually. But how I got there was, before you do anything, and you want to find the right way that you have written it, that you want to transfer it to a carving, I just sat down and I wrote this out as many times, a lot of different ways, and I tried to find one that I thought was gonna work, and that was this one, and it just did not work. So I went back to the drawing board and I came up with this one. It's bolder, it's got a much more substantial feel to it, and I carved it, and this is how it turned out, and I'm much happier with it. Okay, so I've carved this stamp, and it's hard to see how far I've come or what needs to be removed without inking it up. And you can see that I have not inked it up yet, so I'm getting ready to do a test print. But before I do that, I'm going to do a few things. First thing I'm going to do is remove all of the extra crumbs that get caught in the corners and the crevices, because they will end up on your ink pad and you don't want that. And then the other thing I'm going to do is show you how I apply this glue. Straightforward. You just want to put a nice coat on it. And I'm going to give it about 10 minutes. I'm pumping it to get it to flow more. But I'm going to give it probably about maybe 10 minutes to dry. And then I'm going to come back and use it as on an acrylic mount like this one. And then it will work better for me. So I'm going to give it a few minutes to dry. Okay, so while I'm waiting for that to dry, I'm going to show you how I stamped out this really cute little holly border. It's just so simple, but yet it has an elegance to it that I just love. So I'm going to start with the green, and I'm going to use the Shady Lane by Versafine. It's a nice olive green. And I'm using 4x6 index cards. These are really great to practice on, and I use them for designing things or just for quick stamping out of projects or even note-taking, but I keep them readily available, and I keep a stack around. But they're great to just test designs out, and this is exactly how that's going to work out. So I'm going to stamp it once with the freshly inked stamp, and then I'm going to stamp it another time without re-inking it. And I'm going to go in the same direction. And I'm going to try to mix it up. I don't want to just do that all the way up, because I don't think that's going to look good. So I'm going to come back in and maybe add another darker one down here. And just kind of just play with it and see how it goes. You'll figure it out, because you'll see the patterns start to develop as you're stamping it out. I'll do one more. It's okay if it goes off the paper. Actually, on these, I kept them on the paper, but I'm just, for demo's sake, here, I'll do another one. Let's turn it this way. All right, you could just sort of do playful jump about. Try not to give it too much worry or focus on how it's turning out. You want to have some organic, natural movement to it. So you get the idea. You could do a third stamped impression. It's going to be, I was going to say it's going to be lighter, but that one turned out pretty good. Unless that was a second impression. I lost track. Okay, I think I'm good. I'm going to leave that. So now I have my red ink. This is the Tulip Red. And I have these dots. I think when I carve these, now these are both actually, let me back up here. These are both mounted on little foam pieces. that I tried to stamp an index directly on top of the foam with a stays-on ink. Didn't really do too well. It's just too rough of a surface, I think, to capture a clear image. And then I stamped it on just regular copy paper with permanent ink, and I adhered it onto the piece of foam with some glossy Mod Podge to kind of keep it clean. And that seems to have worked, and it keeps the image pretty crisp. So these are just circles. These circles are great to practice, but they're also fun to make little designs. And when I carved this, I did make it with the intention that they could look like berries, a little cluster of berries. And I'm going to turn the stamp as I stamp it so they're not all going in the same direction. See how cute that is? So simple. And the berries, I don't do a second impression. I just do full ink. But you could do whatever you want. So I think that's really cute. Okay, so the glue on the stamp is dry, and you can tell because it's clear. And I'm going to use this acrylic mount. I'm just going to stick it on here, trying to keep it straight because I'm going to use this line hopefully for, well, I don't do anything that's straight, so we'll see how this goes. And I'm going to use the green ink. And I'm going to give it, well, I was going to say I've already cleaned it out, but I'm going to give it one more pass with the kneaded eraser in case there's anything in there. There's no doubt in my mind that this is going to need to be cleaned up more, but it's looking pretty good, have to admit. Solid pressure on all parts of the stamp. I'm pretty happy with that. There's a few places to clean up, probably right here around the top of this W, right here. Now this little line here, I don't mind. And this one here on the S, and this one here on the M, I might keep those, but if they're just little scratchy marks that are just kind of messy looking, I'll take those away. But I do like the elongated sort of, I don't know what you call them, marks. So overall it looks good. I need to clean up this W here in the corner here. And I want to clean up inside the A, but I'm afraid I'll mess it up. I might just do very, very lightly. And I'd like to clean up here on this E and this S. And you can see here clearly where even just the slightest little nick in your lettering can, it can take it in a whole direction or sometimes ruin it. So overall, I'm pretty happy with this. I think I like it much better than this one, I think. I'm going to clean this up and then I'm going to finish this card and see how it looks. So I used a combination of these 4 inks, and it's the Rainforest, the Tulip Red, the Shady Lane, and the Glamorous. And it works really well. I mean, you can just play with it. There's different colors, like this is the Shady Lane and the Tulip Red. It's got a real orangey kind of feel to it. That may be something that you're looking for. You can see on this particular card that it is a textured card, and that gives you a whole different look than stamping on something very smooth. So you want to think about that as well. But I really liked using both of the greens, and that's what I ended up doing on the majority of them. And I ended up using the Glamorous color. I think it's more of a blue red that I like, but they all work. So find the ones that work, the inks that work for you, use what you have, and just explore. Also, I stamped my envelopes. I stamp envelopes. I think it's so much more interesting to get something in the mail that's been stamped. I always stamp on the back flap and then usually the front left corner, so it leaves you room for writing. But there's all kinds of ways to decorate envelopes. That's a whole nother story. This particular stamp, I didn't use the single leaf, I used a little cluster stamp of leaves that I have. That went really much quicker. But this would not have worked for making a bow or a bow, whatever this is called. You know what I mean? It would have worked, but it would have been more difficult. Okay, so here I want to show you some samples of different ways to do this. And this is an example of using a glitter watercolor or a metallic watercolor. Let's show you this one here. And it was super easy, and all I did was basically just do some swatches of watercolor. I gave it very little effort. I just painted them loosely, and then once it was dry, I would stamp back on top of the watercolor. You can do it with a metallic watercolor. This one's beautiful. And the reason I only stamped on the top, just to show you what the bottom looked like. So you can do it, you know, bigger strokes, you can do it smaller strokes, and they all work, you know, but you do want to do this ahead of time and let it dry. And I will say that when you stamp on top of any kind of metallic or especially glitter, you're going to get, that glitter is going to get picked up on your stamp. So you want to have a kneaded eraser to clean that as you go, so you don't have to, so you don't end up with the glitter all over your ink pad. I think this adds a nice movement and a really charming quality to it. Another idea is you could do a wet on wet kind of wash with watercolor. Let it dry and then stamp right on top of it. And that just has a really nice hand-painted feel, sort of ethereal and just sort of moody, and I like that. So watercolor is always a good option with stamps in my world. Another thing you can do is I use some gold ink. Do a gold vine or a gold vine with gold berries, or you can just put some gold berries mixed in with your red berries. Or you could just do a simple black line. It's very sophisticated, and it gives the eye a place to move and follow the vine. It's very simple, but I think it works nice. And then finally, if you want to do a wreath, I actually think that's a great idea. Be prepared to, you know, not get it right for a while. Practice it, see what works for you. I mean, you can see that this isn't even an exact circle. It's more of an oblong wreath. But what you want to do is you want to make some sort of template, and you want to put it right down in the middle and then stamp around it, so you know you have just enough room for your words. Certainly you could stamp it first and then stamp around. It's up to you. There's a lot of different options. So just know that when you go to pull this off, this tape off, depending on the kind of paper you have, you don't want to, that's my dog barking. You don't want to rip the paper like I did here. So just keep that in mind. Go easy on it. But this is always a good idea to have some sort of reference, some sort of template that guides you. Yeah, that's cute, right? Okay, so this is my 2018 holiday card, and I wanted to do a whole 4x6 because I wanted to be able to do a printmaking style. And what I mean by that is inking up the plate or the stamp. Basically, when it gets to be this size, it's really not a stamp anymore. It's more of a block print. And the best way to do those is to You know, you can brayer the ink on. I don't do that, a lot of that, because I find it very messy. Or you can ink it. You know, you could take your ink and just ink it up very well. Make sure that you have a re-inker because you're going to be doing a lot. And then you can just place your card down and then burnish it. It takes some practice, and but it's a lot of fun. And again, I use my 4x6 blank index cards to practice on. And I think ultimately I made my Christmas cards. I don't have any of the finished ones. I think they're all gone because I did end up mounting this on a separate card, a larger card, so that it would look, you know, more polished, more sophisticated. And I think I just used basic index cards for the original art, and it turned out really well. But this was a really fun design, and it was simple, and it went fast, and it had a good impact. And I just love doing this style. So I did it again in 2020. Okay, so in 2020, I decided I wanted to revisit this block print style, and I had already carved this. I had been playing with several 4x6 botanical style prints, block prints, and this was the original design. I mean, this is, again, another reason why index cards just come in so handy. It was already the perfect size. I knew what I wanted to do, and I could just scratch out some designs on several different cards to find the one that worked for me. And this is the one that I came up with, and I really like it. I intentionally did not put anything on the top because I wanted to be able to either add a flower or other things. And when I was going to design my holiday card, I was using this design, and I was thinking, gosh, I would really like to do something, you know, that would add berries or something. And so I started playing with, I had a lot of these prints, and I started playing with my Posca pen and some paint to see what I could come up with. And I went in this direction. I played with some metallic inks as well. And then I decided I needed to do a positive and a negative to get the style of design that I was aiming for, which, let me show you, which was this. This is what I ultimately was looking to do. Now, I thought, well, now I need to carve a, let's see, what is this? This is the positive background, and leave the negative space for me to put this stamp inside. So that's what this looks like. So I had to come up with this design to carve this stamp so that this stamp could fit inside. There's probably some very fancy technical word for that, and I don't know what it is. But since I know that both of these were 4x6, I set up a little block printing station. You know, I squared it off so that I didn't move it. And I just got busy, and I started making a lot. I practiced a lot. You know, I did several of these just to kind of see how the colors went. And then I just started playing with it and practicing with different colors, color combinations. And I ended up sending out a lot of different styles. I sent out several like this color with this colorway. I sent out a couple with this colorway, but I really did like the black, and I mounted it on a darker green card, the majority of them. Maybe not that one. Probably that one for sure. I don't have very many of these left either. But this one I was very, very, very happy with, and I'm probably going to revisit it again. But you can see what I did here is, since this doesn't have any berries or flowers on the top, on this one I just cut out 3 little circles, and then I put the berry circles all along the branches so that I could add the little red dots. And I did that with, I think, gouache, but you could certainly use a Posca pen or a gel pen or anything. So I was really happy with this design. I think it turned out very, very nice. It's one of my favorites. Also, we're getting a big snowstorm tonight, so it's perfectly apropos to be making holiday cards in January. It's okay. You can do this. Nobody cares, and you're going to be so happy that you did this ahead of time. All right, well, that is it for Studio Vlog 08. I am so glad that you joined me here. Thank you for indulging me in a holiday card when it's not holiday season. But you know, these things are perennial, so it's going to keep coming back. You'll have a chance to use what you learned today. And maybe you'll think about it throughout the year and you'll come up with your own ideas and inspiration. Thank you again. I really appreciate it. As I've said before, this is YouTube. You know what to do. And I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.